Wise. This is CNN Money Switzerland, and that is a black swan. Now, it's an expression that describes an event no one could have foreseen, but has a major effect. And it's exactly how Venturelab, a startup support organisation, is describing the coronavirus impact on small businesses. Indeed, the Bank of England today followed the Fed in reducing interest rates to help protect those very companies, as well, of course, as cushioning the blow of the virus on the economy. Well, joining me now from Venturelab, we have Jordi Montserrat, who's the co-founder of the group which supports startups here in Switzerland. Jordi, how exposed are startups, particularly when it comes to coronavirus?
Well, they will be exposed like many companies, or like most of the companies. But I think one particular element for the startups that will be really important is the financing. Many startups still rely on external financing, and what we already see and hear is that investors are talking of the black swan event of the year. You are probably familiar with the expression of the unpredictable event that will last.
What do you believe? Do you think we're looking at a black swan event?
If you look at the growing uncertainty that is going, across the countries at different speed, I think we can today start talking of a black swan event in the sense of a very difficult event to predict. We are planning different programs. Now we see that actually Europe is strongly impacted. The United States are entering into this. How long will it be until we know how this develops in the US, and then how the other countries react? Because if we have sort of a sequential story, then it might come back and from one country to another. And then the companies have a lot of uncertainties. So definitely, I think at this stage, the level of unpredictability and the difficulty to have a solid base to know what's happening make it that we are looking at something that will impact for several months to go.
Well, let's talk about the cash flow issues, because according to Saxo Bank, the average SME or non-listed company operates with around just 3 months worth of liquidity. And already we're at least 6 weeks into that here in Europe. I mean, how stressful is the situation, and what is there to support startups through this?
Well, of course, it is an extremely stressful situation. Startups, you have several different profiles. I mean, many of them have light structures, and should be able to adapt. And according to when they did their latest financing and how much they have in the reserve, they might have a runway of a few months. But definitely for them, the issues goes further, because even if they have a runway of 6 to 12 months currently, some of them might be shorter, they don't have any other revenue they can come back to when the situation normalizes. And for them, the situation will normalize on the longer term.
What about banks? I'm sorry to interrupt, but what about banks here? Because non-performing loans are an obvious choice for a startup, but for banks that doesn't make sense in this low-yield environment. So what room to maneuver do they have?
Yeah, well, banks, if you ask for banks and financing, it won't be an issue. I mean, it won't be an option. Because basically banks were not financing in standard time, and you have very little options for the startups. They won't be able to turn to banks today. For the companies that were able to be financed by banks today, then of course it will be a major question how much they are able to support and to come back to structures such as startups, which are still in heavy growth mode or are still developing their business model. Else, we'll have the same situation as with standard companies. But my point was much more on the financing for the venture capital, for the business angel, for all the people who are supporting these companies in this very special or particular period when the companies are doing no or low turnover and are just entering the market.
Just this week, you've got a China program which helps startups here in Switzerland boost their future in China. And the closing date for this program is on Sunday. So, startups only have until the end of the week to sign up for this. But is the program in jeopardy because of the coronavirus?
The travel to China is planned to be in June. We don't know yet whether the partners will hold their events. We're hoping so, but we don't know. We also see that China is communicating that the situation is normalizing. Yet we have to see that the rest of the world as well is normalizing, or at least many of the partners with whom we work. So at this moment, the deadline for that program is up and running.
How damaging has this been for China? Because China is very much seen as a sandbox for startups to go and play and come up with new ideas and look for new funding. Is China too risky now?
Right now, we are discussing regularly with our partners. We do have the message that the situation is normalizing. Many areas have been declared again virus-free. So we are checking. We're seeing if this situation holds and is stabilized and can be can be used as a base for the next steps. I think that definitely the investors, and that's one question that is yet to be assessed, existing investors will first look at their pipeline and will definitely look at new pipeline, but will probably delay their entry into new startups. And then when it comes to business and business development, that is definitely a question on the activities of the existing companies. They will assess first what's the damage. This will take a few, I think, weeks and months as we see the first numbers, and then see which part of the innovation they will want to continue and which work with the startups they will want to do. Specifically for China, I come back. I think that by summer or autumn, we should be able to do these activities. Yet it is still an open and ongoing. We're giving ourselves a few weeks now to move forward until we fully resume, according to the news, that we fully resume what we're doing.
All right, we'll leave it there. Jordi Montserrat, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much, and hoping the situation solves as everyone as quickly as possible. Thank you.
All right, well, Ari Andrikopoulos joins me now. He's the CEO of Room Price Genie, which is a company that, well, basically you help smaller companies price their rooms, smaller hotels price their rooms. So you're at the forefront of what's happening in the tourist industry. And from your perspective, how concerned are people?
I think it's a very big deal. Obviously, people are cancelling stays that are coming up. People are not wanting to book because of the uncertainty. You can see with airline prices what's going on. So I think hotel owners are fearing the worst at this stage for the next few months.
And what is the worst case scenario?
Well, I mean, the worst is I suppose, a long period of either very low occupancy or shutting down completely because of risks to staff and guests.
And how specifically has your business been impacted by this? Because you actually help hotel rooms get more per cost for their room.
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment it's difficult to say for us. I think that in general, when the industry goes down, it is tough for everyone. At the same time, it is a time, in hard times, it's a time when maybe you do need more help, and our business is to increase the revenue of these smaller hotels. So in the tough times, it might be good for them.
And you were actually supposed to be at the Berlin Travel Conference, but that was cancelled because of coronavirus. How did that impact you?
So that was, I mean, from our point of view, we put a lot of investment into it, we put a lot of time into it, and so it was a big shame. But just at the moment, everyone's going through a tough time, and so I think there's a good sort of spirit of solidarity in the hotel industry, but I think we all know that it's not a good time. And
when you say you put a lot of investment into this conference, I mean, how much of your marketing budget went to it?
Maybe 30% of our year's budget, I would say, maybe went to this event. So that was, I mean, that was a shame for us. We think we will.
Did you manage to turn it around and put your conference experience online?
So yeah, we were working with a property management system called Guestline, and they organised a virtual conference, and it was pretty successful. It was quite fun. People would come in and click on who they want to speak to and have a sort of a conference experience. So maybe that's the future.
Did you manage to secure business?
Yeah, we did. We've got a number of appointments and demonstrations to come from that. So.
Okay. Aside from not being able to go out and meet your clients and potential investors, how has your business been affected by coronavirus? What about cash flow issues? We're hearing that a lot of bank loans, for example, or certainly a lot of cash flow companies, smaller companies only have like 3 months kind of in the bank, and that actually we're now at least halfway through that period of time here in Europe. Do you have any kind of cash flow worries?
We don't for the near future. At some point our revenues need to grow, and we can delay that for a few months, and we should be fine. But longer than that, and we'll see what happens.
Ari Andrikopoulos, thank you very much indeed. I won't shake your hand, but my thanks to you for joining us.
Thank you, Hannah.
And don't forget that all our content is online. In fact, you can have your say about coronavirus. Perhaps your business has been affected. You can leave comments online. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And of course, everything is available on our website, cnnmoney.ch. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.